Welcome to this episode of Author Eke. I'm Travis Davis, your host. Tell us your story. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Author Eke. And we are talking to Alex, is a half a world away. And I am not kidding about that. He's a half a world away. So it's early where he's at. And we're just glad that either he stayed up or got up. So, again, welcome, Alex. And please tell us about yourself and your book, and we'll just have a conversation about, you being an author and see how it goes. So welcome.
Sure. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. 2 a.m. for me. Thankfully, the children haven't woken up to interrupt the chat, which is nice. Let's see how we go. So as for myself, I'm Alex. So I've been writing since I got the idea for my book, which was when I was 15. I'm now 36. So this has been a very long, very long gestation period for this idea. When I was 15, I was working as a builder's labourer and staring out the window, and I imagined the whole world turning blue. And then in that world, what if there was someone that was yellow? How would they exist in this blue world? And from there, this idea just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I went through the stages of writing what I believed was then the first book, turned out to be the fourth. So I had to start again. And as this thing has kind of grown and finally have released the first book in the series of 6 that I'm currently writing. So as for myself, I'm a father of 2. I've been kind of holding this idea as I've kind of gone through the different phases of life. I've been a very big consumer of a lot of, let's say, hedonistic things, and for a long time. But this idea has kind of always been in the back burner, always just still there, kind of gently nudging me to say, you kind of need to give some of this stuff away and maybe just focus on doing this writing stuff. And it's been a really interesting journey and a very fun journey that I'm still on as I try and shift from being a consumer of a lot of things to a producer of things, which is it's more fun on that side, I must say.
Yeah, I think it's good to be a giver. And you're not unlike a lot of the authors that I've spoken to. I've spoken to a lot of authors. They've had these ideas or this concept for a long while, and they'll write on it periodically. Then something is a catalyst to make them want to go ahead and take it from the beginning to the middle to the end, and that could take years for somebody to be able to do that. Because as you grow, as you get older, if you have different experiences, you want what, I can incorporate that. But I like the idea of a blue world. So Alex might have coined the phrase "a big blue planet." So way before it was coined. So now then this individual, or that's not what everybody else is. And then how does everybody deal with that individual, or how does he cope or she cope?
Yeah. So it kind of started with, so you got the blue world and then a yellow person. And then I went, okay, if there's a blue world and a yellow person, then there has to be a yellow world and a blue person. So then you've kind of got that inversion. And then I went, okay, now we're starting to get into a bit of a color wheel here. And we've kind of got the what the first book is called, which is called primary. You have your primary colors, which are your red, blue, and yellow. Red, blue, yellow. So that's kind of the first focus. And then you've got secondary colors, which are your oranges, purples, and greens, tertiary colors. And then you start to kind of fan out and go, okay, if you imagine a whole world where their basis is colors, that would be really fun to kind of play around with. How would that work? While I was kind of coming up with this kind of idea, I stumbled across there was a thought experiment done by a teacher down in the 1950s called the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experiment, in which this teacher based the treatment of children in her classroom by the color of their eyes and color of their hair. and saying, for the rest of the day, the blue-eyed people are superior and the brown-eyed people are not. And I'm like, that's a really cool concept. Why don't I drop that into the whole world, in
Mhm.
that there isn't the way that people are treated is based on their hair color. So like the blue and red people just cannot stand each other because
Mhm.
they're kind of like diametrically opposed. And you're creating this kind of world of division based on color in its most extreme, by
Mhm.
they associate with where they are and where they live by their hair and eye color,
Mhm.
and anything that's not that, they're against. But
Mhm.
what if then it wasn't always this way? What if it was once a harmonious place? So it kind of digs into a bit of the backstory about how did this place kind of become this way? And what would happen? This is the coming around to your
Yeah.
question. What happens when you mix all three primary colors together is you get brown. And
Mhm.
that's kind of like one of the most common things that we have as hair color, um, and eye color. What happens if you drop an individual who completely nondescript into
Mhm.
this world of color that is brown hair, brown eyes, and as soon as he turns up, he's prophesized as this child that's supposed to bring harmony to the
Mhm.
world, to this world
Because
of
he has
color,
all the primary colors.
because he has all the primary colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the whole premise for the first three books in the series, is this
Mhm.
story of this boy who gets dropped into this world, who is the prophesized one. And then 4, 5, and 6 will be a different protagonist, who
Mhm.
has all the colors, in her iris, as it's like a full color wheel,
Mhm.
that she can kind of, and it goes deeper, deeper, deeper. But that's the core premise, is that, yeah, we're playing with someone who's kind of nondescript into a world of color.
Mhm. Interesting. Interesting. A lot of dichotomies around that, and when you look at the world today and everything, if you just people say look through rose-colored glasses, right? That's a saying. Uh, so that's interesting. So you started when you were 15, with the concept, with the idea, and you let it nurture throughout your young adulthood, and things kind of went after that. So what what finally decided? How did you finally decide to? I'm gonna take the time. I'm gonna, because writing is a lonely sport. You've got two kids,
Yeah,
right? And you've got obligations. So how did you finally determine that you know what? I'm gonna finish this.
yeah, it is something that kind of nags you, um, quietly and
Mhm.
gently, in the most annoying possible way,
Yeah, exactly.
that that you need to do this thing.
Mhm.
It's I'd heard, there's an Alfred Adler quote. I'm so glad for this idea that has used me. In
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sometimes you're kind
yeah.
of a vessel for this idea that needs to kind of come out. And from what I'd kind of consumed in, like, a lot of books and a lot
Mhm.
of movies and a lot of video games, I'd loved I'd loved the kind of fantasy aspect of some of these worlds that we're creating, but it was just so much backstory and describing the environment. And I'm like, this is just
Right.
boring. And then on the other side, there's sci-fi, I should say, and it's like so technical, and you just get so lost.
Hmm.
I wanted that sweet spot in between, in that it's like, hurry up and something happen in this fantasy world, but don't make it so technical that you just completely lose me. And
Right.
that didn't exist. That crossover
Hmm.
I couldn't find. And that was kind of a sign to myself, just like, well, I have to make what I need to, what I want to see, right? And it's
Exactly.
kind of
Whatever your mind put it to paper.
whatever's in your head. It's like,
Yeah.
well, okay, it's up to me then. I've got to do this. So, and then kind of went to the almost, you imagine, the 2001 monkeys kind of bashing
Yeah.
bones. That was me
Yep.
on a keyboard to begin with, right? Just like not not knowing any idea about prose or about perspectives or about
Mhm.
how do I structure it, what are the blueprints? What is the dark night of the soul? None of that stuff I had any idea of, and had to kind of figure it out. And it
Mhm.
was really a cool aspect of, well, if I want this to exist, I have to acknowledge that I'm going to suck at doing this to begin with, and
Oh
I've got
yeah.
to figure this thing
Yep.
out, right? It's
Yep.
a great process, and really, for certainly once I got around to actually releasing it, was really encouraging to see how far I'd actually come
Mhm.
as a writer, and how to kind of take something so big and kind of condense it down so that someone else could understand it.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
it's almost the Feynman technique, in that you take a concept, break it down, and then explain it to someone else. And
Right.
if there's gaps, then you have to kind of start the process again.
Yeah, and then now that you're writing a series, is you got to be able to, in each book, talk it talk enough about the main character so they don't have to go and read all about the main character again. That's the tough part,
Yeah.
without taking that whole page and copying it again, right? And they say, if you put a color TV in a box in pieces and you give it to monkeys, if they shake the box enough, it'll be a color TV again.
Hmm.
So that's the whole thing about writing a book, right? If you can shake your box, which is your mind, enough, you're going to be able to get it on there. And how I went from an idea to writing a book is because I did probably the worst thing ever, is I told somebody I was going to write a book.
Oh,
Then,
then you
because you tell somebody, you've got to finish it.
you
I told enough
committed.
people I'm committed. I'm like, I can't write a book, you know. But then the way I don't outline, I'm called a pantser, I guess. I just kind of write in my mind, and I'll write out a
Mhm,
thought to the complete end of the thought, and then go back. And I've noticed too that my first book versus my second one, I'm a better writer
mm,
because it was edited. Now, okay, why did they do these things? These editors do these things.
mm,
So now I
mm.
can, put it there, and then the third book will be, a little bit better or different. But yeah, so are you self-published, or did you do any kind of, or how did you publish the book?
Self-published, yeah.
Okay.
So I went the attempted to pitch it at the traditional ones, but I think the sheer amount of, well, it's a kind of a double-edged sword. It's a blessing that everyone can self-publish and do their own
Mhm.
thing, but it creates a vast array of,
Yes.
of books that are currently being released, which I don't mind, because it's great that everyone else gets to have a similar experience of
Yep.
just creating this thing. Like, it's
Exactly.
it's pretty cool to have platforms now that can allow us to release and create and
Mhm.
have these kind of conversations. I think it's awesome. I mean,
Well,
certainly
yeah,
for
it's amazing. I mean, I knew nothing about publishing a book. All I knew about publishing a book is I go to a bookstore and buy one.
right.
Um, right. I didn't know anything of the internet. So I, did some studying, did some reading up on it, and then, finally figured out what I wanted to do. But it is, and then people say, oh, I'm going to write a book. And they go, oh, I write a book that I'm done. No, when I'll tell people, I look at a pie and I cut a pie in three pieces. The writing the book is one third. There's the
Mm.
first piece you eat. Those other two thirds is marketing the book, getting out there, and you look at those two pieces and go, I don't know how to eat that. Right. So you've got to figure out how to get your book out, how to conceptualize it to somebody in an elevator pitch,
Yes.
or how much you want to be able to give away. So I tell folks, market the book, market yourself, whatever
Mm.
platform. Are you on Facebook, Twitter, or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. All of them. TikTok. Yeah.
Okay, what's your handles on all those?
I've just got the Prism author on most of them, or Alex Holland 87 for Twitter and Facebook. I've got the prismhexology.com is my
Okay.
main site, where I've got all my handles, which is really fun to kind of play around with. You're right. The whole marketing aspect is arguably more important, because yes, you've made a book, but if no one knows about it, then
Yeah, exactly.
it doesn't do anything. Like you feel
Right.
great, but it's like
Right.
how do you tell a stranger or someone on Facebook
Mhm.
a convincing argument as to why they should check out your book? Like what?
Right.
And it's fun to kind of think about that other perspective of why should some or what are you giving for that person
Mhm.
to check out your book? Is there a way that you can create like a little infographic, or
Yeah.
is there like a fun like I started messing around with like little skits and
Mhm.
stuff and just kind of playing around, which has been fun. It's cool to experiment about this side of things. So it's really cool that you're right. I like the pie analogy.
Yeah. So what I do is I create like a minute, 15-second trailer for each of the books, video,
Nice.
and I'll tweak it and promote them over time. I do Twitter, more kind of focused on that, on Facebook, um, LinkedIn stuff, my own website, and TikTok. Which my son
Mm.
said, "Dad, you got to do TikTok." I'm like, "I don't want to do TikTok. I don't want to." You got to do TikTok. So I go out there, and I do a little video, and he kind of prompt me. He's 26 years old, so he's on TikTok. I'm 63 years old. I'm like, tick maybe, tick then talk. I break him up into two
Age,
words.
age, age should not be a barrier for
I
entry.
know.
It would,
I'm pretty technical. I've got a computer background and
oh,
all. I'm
nice.
very technical. But
Just
yeah, I'm like, oh, tick
be careful of
talk.
that algorithm. That algorithm can get you. Just
I know that's why I don't look at nothing. I just I do look at stuff, but
fair,
some of it's pretty
fair.
crazy. But yeah, so I like, but I do like the marketing aspect of it. What I do like, what I find enjoyable is when I do book signings,
Yeah.
because and I have to tell folks when I tell them about the book, I have to remind it's fiction because they think it's real. It's fiction.
Mm,
Yeah. Um, so I enjoy that, but that does two things that I think. Well, three things. One, it gets the book out so people read it. Two, you're getting to see the demographics of the people that are buying your book and why they're buying it.
mm,
Is it a gift? Is it a gift for their husband? Is it a gift for their wife or the father-in-law with military background? You get all these demographics when you do that. And the third thing I think it does is really allow me to hone my skills of being able to talk about it,
mm,
be able to clearly articulate and quickly what the book synopsis of the book.
mm.
Um, and so I do like those aspects of it, whether wherever you're doing it. And I kind of recommend for authors, go to your local library. A lot of them have programs where they'll bring the author into the, like I'm going on the 25th of May here in my town, Allen, Texas, on the 25th of May. They have author go on stage and talk about their books, and they film it
I love
live
it.
and they
Oh,
stream it
that's great.
live. So go to the library, get your book in the libraries, right? Let people check them out and read them, for free.
Mm,
See what kind of book signings are there. Look, local events or book festivals and competitions and things like. Get all that out there. And a lot of it's relatively free or dirt cheap. Um, so that's what I kind of recommend. I mean, I haven't been doing it all that long, but that's from a very new perspective, and from talking to other authors also, that a lot of them are doing that. But you got to think outside the box a little bit, because people are consuming things differently these days. And
mm.
how are they getting the information that consume to be able to make a conscious decision to buy something? That's
Do you have your books in audio format?
I do.
Nice. I was going to
Yeah.
say you've got a great voice, and certainly for
Oh, I don't
the
do
way
it
you
though.
just. Why not? You
Oh
should.
no. Oh, I'm from Arkansas. I love the state, but I
Hey,
will mispronounce things all day long. So
no, you got a great voice,
oh,
and
thank
I
you.
think people would resonate with you be able to speak, and certainly for when you talk about under the hood
Mhm.
of all the marketing kind of aspects, there's kind of two core tenets that I'd heard is the most important for people to learn: the ability to speak and
Mhm.
the ability to sell.
Yes.
And as an author, you're selling yourself. You're selling yourself as someone interesting, you can speak, you can articulate ideas, you can convince
Yes.
them as to why you should kind of check out this idea. And through these different kind of various means, whether it's LinkedIn or TikTok or on
Yep.
stage or wherever it is, if you've got that ability to take 50,000 word, 100,000 word novel and condense it down to like an elevator pitch, that's
Yep.
a skill, and make
Yep.
people interested as
Yep.
to why they should check that out in a live setting via
Yep.
the internet, whatever means it is, through the way that you can speak and the way that you can sell. And, where a lot of the marketing is kind of like objection handling, as
Right.
to think of a
Yes.
customer from the other side to go, well, why should I check out your book? It's like, well, it's really cool because we've got, all this stuff going on. Like there's mystery, and in my latest book, it's a follow on from this,
Yep.
and well, it costs this much, and here's a free chapter, or you can check out my
Yep.
content that I've made on YouTube. Like there's the objection handling and the selling and the speaking aspect is really cool to master in a roundabout way from a traditional kind of like sales role, or
Yep.
you being in IT, you would know dealing with people. You need to
Yep.
be able to articulate, what is wrong, or why, if you're doing software development, why it doesn't work this way, or why it's going to take longer than maybe what someone from the business expects.
Right.
It's all a really powerful skill to learn, and certainly one for, I think, a lot of authors to think about and be aware of is, how the person who wins is the one who communicates the best,
Right.
generally.
Right.
Right. And if you can master that skill, then
Yeah.
you'll be set.
Yeah. I did, I've created software. I've sold it and everything. And I tell people the hardest thing to do is to sell software that's for salespeople to salespeople, right? Because you're talking to people that sell stuff. So they want you to buy something, but you're trying to sell them something that you want them to buy. So that's the hardest thing, because you've got to find out that, again, an obstacle, right? Or an objection, right? What are the obstacles for them buying? Well, I don't have the money or something. Okay, what's the objection? So how do I overcome an obstacle, right? I move it, right? I figure out a way, or an objection. So that's critical when you do that. And I find a lot of authors, that sometimes they're introverted, right? So they got to get out of their comfort zone and go, speak to somebody and practice it over and over, right? That's one reason why I did this podcast, because I didn't know. And how do you learn? By finding other people that have done it.
Totally.
So that's one reason why I really like this podcast. Plus, to meet interesting folks like yourself, and that I like that. And so writing to me is. I never thought I would do it. Nobody of you knew me ever thought I would do it in 100 years. But it only took me 60. So, little more than half, but I'm doing good. I'm a late bloomer. But I do enjoy that. But you're right. You've got to be able to, you got to get out there. You've got to meet people. And sometimes when you meet people, they give you an idea, like, maybe I need to market it like this, and then because they will give you an honest opinion. So the one thing too, if you write a book, be ready. There are some people that will tear it to pieces.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
that's what they enjoy.
And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're
No.
prepared for it, because that's just objections that you're not aware of yet. Like I put a blurb on the back of my book, and one of the notes saying, it's like, he must race against time to recover ancient artifacts that hold the key to his true origins before his high school bully kills him. And one of the guys said, how long do you guys have high school for there in Australia?
Yeah.
And I'm like, only, 6 to 7 years. Why? It's like, why is he 21 and his high school bully still trying to kill him? Is he still in high school? I'm like, wow, that's a really good pickup. Like I need to reword that, because for in the way it was described, or the way that he understood it, was that a 21-year-old is still in high school in Australia.
Well, it may be
it's
university.
Like, okay.
It may be university, some folks. Yeah.
I need to, even the way you construct the each sentence or the description can be
Yeah.
pulled apart, and it makes you better, right? Like it's a good
But it
thing.
is
Like you
possible.
need,
I will tell you. It
it's
is possible to be
possible. Yeah,
21 in high school.
you could still be going at 21. He's not in the best spot, my main character, but one of the things is he did make it through school. So
That's good.
I, even you're spot on though that if you're going to put something out into the world, it's going to come
Yeah.
back to you, and in both good and negative senses.
Yeah.
But it makes you better. Like it's a
Yeah.
muscle that
I
you
think
can kind
so.
of build, right? So you mentioned it earlier. It's like you've written your first, and now you've written the second, and now onto the third. It's like you get better as a writer every
Mhm.
time. So those gaps or those maybe sentences that you might have had as a paragraph, you can
Yeah.
condense down because you can articulate that message a lot better,
Yeah. Yeah.
and hopefully
Definitely.
avoid those "why did you write it that way" kind of
Yeah. Well,
conversations.
I've had a lot of that. So yeah, I mean, and another thing for all the listeners out there, if you read a book, please put a review out there. Those reviews are critical from a couple aspects. One, it gives the writer insight into good, bad, and the ugly, right? The other thing that it does, it actually helps with the algorithms from Amazon. We'll be able to, boost the book, or when you do keywords and how's it come up. So those are critical. So, it only takes a couple minutes, write something, put a star rating, but give those reviews on Amazon or Goodreads or wherever you might be, or wherever you get your books, Barnes and Noble or Books a Million or whatever, right? So I think that's critical. So let's see a cover of your book, and let's tell us where we can get it.
Sure. So this is an author copy. It's got not for resale tagged around the side, but
Yeah.
this is on everywhere that you can purchase. So we've got Amazon, it's on Goodreads, it's on Barnes and Noble. If you type in Alex Holland Primary, you'll be able to find it. All the print on demand, wonderful technology that exists now, is really cool. So yeah, I tried to put it in all the different spots that I could, and yeah, this is Vertex 1 of the Prism hexology, which I've got 5 to go, and I want them all out by the time I'm 40. So I'm busy,
Wow,
which
that's
is good.
busy. That's pretty busy. That's an aggressive timeline. But
That's a good thing. I want
hey,
it to be
best of luck.
aggressive.
Best of luck. I mean,
Thank you.
shoot. So you could probably, do right in the summer. So you do summer in the southern hemisphere, then you come up to the northern hemisphere. You know, you may
I
be
can go
able to
back in
work it where you're
time.
always in the summer. You may be able to work it where you're always in the summer. So that'd be kind
I
of
can
nice.
time travel because I'm in the future.
Yeah,
Speaking to you now, I
yeah, yeah,
can just hop
exactly.
across. Just keep
Yeah.
going north.
That's concept. People have been trying to figure it out for years. So no, great, Alex. It's fantastic meeting you. Uh, Best of luck to your kids and everything.
Thanks very
They're
much.
going to grow up and say, "Man, my dad is a writer, and people like his books." That's big. That's cool.
That's the plan.
Inspiration. That's all you need. Be
That's
successful.
it. That's it.
Excellent.
Lead by
Well,
example.
exactly. People go out there, folks. Check out his books, and there's going to be more than one. So go out there also on Amazon and follow the author page of the authors that you want to follow, and then you'll get some updates on when the new releases are and everything. So that's what I kind of recommend. And great meeting you. Have a great, I guess, morning coming up. And we will talk to you very soon. And the best of luck, Alex.
Good man. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Author Eke. There'll be another episode next week. Please stop by and start your own story. We can't wait to hear it.